90.5 WKHS, you're now listening to FanCam with Peter and Andrew, where you get to hear two friends talk about sports from a fan's perspective.
Week by week, we will be discussing score predictions, breaking sports news, your very own Trojan Sports, and your favorite big-time teams.
Join us every Thursday to hear us learn more about sports and give our spin on the modern-day sports talk show, right here on 90.5 WKHS. Welcome back, everybody, to FanCam, a sports talk show where two friends give their opinion on sports. I'm Peter, joined by my co-host Andrew.
How's it going?
And today, great day to be a sports fan. This weekend was filled with a lot of football, great action. The playoff picture for MLB has been set and off way. But first, I want to get into our Trojan Sports. Starting Monday, we had golf at the Hyatt in Cambridge. And then Tuesday, boys soccer beat Pocomoke 2-0, I'm pretty sure, which makes them 5-3 on the season and then 5-0 in win streak. So looking good for them. Yesterday, we had cross country at Parkside and then field hockey senior night against Parkside as well.
Yep. All those were great games. And then later on in the week, today we have boys soccer at Kent Island. We have volleyball versus North Carolina. And tonight, tune in for the football game versus Cambridge. I will be calling the play-by-play for that game, so if you are unable to attend, tune in to 90.5 WKHS for your play-by-play.
Can't wait. And I want to get into our NFL action. It was a pretty great weekend. I'm kind of just want to start off Cowboys and Giants. The Cowboys getting the win, making them 2-2 on the season. But Daniel Jones still threw for 300 yards, so, did well for his team, but the Cowboys on Thursday Night Football still were able to hold out the win.
Yeah, and it's obviously great for the Cowboys. Obviously, they've taken back-to-back dominant, losses in their past two games, so it's good that they finally got some momentum going and get back on the winning track.
And then the game to start off Sunday was the Saints versus the Falcons, and the Falcons were actually able to squeak out a win here, 26-24. This is their second win against a team that's been pretty good, and for the Falcons, not many people were thinking that they were going to be this well, but getting two wins against two decent teams has been a good look for them.
Yeah, and up next we had the Bears and the Rams. This was a little bit of a shocker. Most people thought the Rams we're going to win this game as the Bears have been struggling with rookie quarterback Caleb Williams, but Caleb Williams came out and got the Bears a 24-18 victory.
And the game after that was really exciting. The Vikings and Packers. I feel like this week was a week of almost comebacks. They were up 28-7 at halftime, looking like a dominant performance, and then in the third and fourth quarter were only able to get up a field goal, allowing the Packers to score 22 points in the fourth quarter, but just barely able to squeak out the win with a 31-29 win. But Love almost throwing for 400 yards, so pretty insane performance from him, giving them the win. So they were looking good.
And after that, we had the Colts and the Steelers. The Colts were able to get a 3-point victory in a 27-24 game.
And as a Steelers fan myself, it was a kind of disappointing loss to see because we're known for our defense, and our defense just wasn't looking spectacular. We were giving up points. We were letting them walk down the field. This was actually Joe Flacco's first game back this season, so another loss to Joe Flacco as a Steelers fan isn't great, but on the right side, Justin Fields still throwing for 300 yards, looking great for the Steelers, so that is an up. And then we had a slow game, to say the least. Broncos versus the Jets. Broncos winning 10-9. Jets weren't able to score a touchdown, only field goals.
And then after that, a little bit of a shocker. Obviously, the Eagles have been struggling as of late, and the Buccaneers get an absolutely dominant win in a 33-16 win, and Baker Mayfield absolutely went off in this game.
How are you feeling about the Eagles this season? Two tough losses. One to the Buccaneers, which nobody was really expecting. Do you still see them being a dominant team later in the season?
I think they're going to end up having an average season. I think they have too many pieces that they need to figure out, and I think it's too much to figure out during the season. So I think they're going to end up being an average team that might barely squeak into the playoffs.
I can agree. Losing a lot of their O-line, too. Veteran O-line, not a great look. But the game after that, Bengals versus Panthers. The Bengals were able to get a 10-point win, 34-24. This was a good win for Joe Burrow. First win of the season, making both teams 1-3, and they're looking to continue this momentum throughout the rest of the season.
The Texans and the Jaguars were the next game, and C.J. Stroud was able to make the Texans improve to 3-1 as they got a 24-20 victory against Jacksonville.
And then the Commanders had another dominant performance. Jalen Daniels looking like the steal in this draft, winning 42-14 against the Cardinals. Mind you, the Cardinals aren't the best, but still putting up 42 points as a rookie is a really good stat line and looking good for him and the team as they continue 3-1.
And the 49ers, after there was many questions about how their season was going to go, obviously with all the injuries they have of their star players, but they were able to get a dominant win against the Patriots, and they came out on top 30-13 at home.
And the Raiders, without Devontae Adams or Max Crosby, many people thinking the Browns were going to take this one. So a surprising win for the Raiders as they won 20-16, able to squeak out the win without two of their, I'd say, best players on the team.
It seems like the Chiefs, every time you see a game they play, they always end up winning, and that's what happened this week. The Chiefs improved to 4-0. They're one of only two teams in the NFL that are still undefeated. The other is the Vikings, and they were able to squeak out a 17-10 victory on the road against the Chargers.
And for a game that me and you thought was going to be extremely close, ended up being a blowout as the Ravens were able to dominate the Bills 35-10, making them 2-2 on the season, and Derrick Henry 200 rushing yards on 24 carries. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, when you start off the game with an 87-yard run, which was a franchise record by a running back, I mean, that sets the tone for the rest of the game. And the Bills, as the game went on, just gave up because Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry are very dominant.
Continuing with Ravens players, Tyler Huntley got his start with the Dolphins, but were able to put up only 100 yards, and the Titans beat them 31-12 as Will Levis gets his first win.
And I'm pretty sure we called that last week. I think we said that the Titans were going to upset the Dolphins because obviously they're without their quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. So obviously a lot of things that need to be worked out in Miami. And the final Monday night football game was the Lions and the Seahawks. And Detroit absolutely dominated the Seahawks 42-29. And they improved to 3-1.
You can't overlook Geno Smith's almost 400-yard performance, though. He was trying to keep his team in it, but in the end just couldn't hold on. And taking a look into the next week, let's kind of go through some games. I'm just going to pick out some random games. I want you to give me your pick on who's going to win. So the Buccaneers over the Falcons.
This is a tough one, but I like the Bucs. They're playing very good right now, and I think they keep the momentum going.
Panthers and Bears.
This is a really tough one. Obviously, the Bears just got their second win of the season. The Panthers are still trying to figure stuff out after they benched second-year quarterback Bryce Young. But I think the Bears get the win here.
A little bit of division play. Ravens versus Bengals. Who do you got?
The Ravens have been looking dominant in their past two games, and I don't think anything's going to change on the road in Cincinnati. I'll take the Ravens.
The Browns versus the Commanders.
I think Jaden Daniels has figured something out, and the Commanders have a legitimate team this year. I think the Commanders are going to come out on top here.
An exciting game for fans. The Bills versus the Texans. How do you think that one's going to go?
I think, obviously, after an embarrassing loss last week from the Bills, I think they bounce back, and I think they get the win on the road against the Texans.
And the final game for Sunday, the Cowboys and the Steelers. Who do you have?
I think the Cowboys barely beat the Steelers. I think the Cowboys have gotten their momentum back, and they've kind of figured a couple things out on defense. I think they barely get a win against the Steelers.
And then to round off the week, Monday Night Football, we have the Saints versus the Chiefs. Who do you have?
I got to choose the Chiefs. I don't think the Saints will match up with the Chiefs as well as the Chiefs do with other teams, and I think this is going to be a pretty easy game for Patrick Mahomes.
I like those picks. And then we have our AP poll just got updated this Saturday. Alabama going to 1, Texas dropping down 1, going to 2, but still 5-0 with a 35-13 win over Mississippi State. Ohio State stays at 3, Tennessee goes to 4, and Georgia goes to 5, dropping 3 places after a loss to Alabama 34-41 and a dominant performance by their rookie wide receiver, Ryan Williams. He's only 17 years old, too, so him playing the way he is insane, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, to think about it, he's only a year older than us, and he just had one of the biggest plays in college football, so that's pretty cool. And now, moving on from the AP poll, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the exciting games this weekend. So, Penn State and Illinois, this was a big matchup in the Big Ten, and Penn State was able to control this game from the start and get a 21-7 victory.
In another ranked game, we had Notre Dame versus Louisville. Notre Dame able to squeak this one out after getting a touchdown and a field goal in the fourth quarter. And they continue their momentum with 4 wins in a row after a loss that they probably shouldn't have taken against NIU in the first week.
And next was a pretty big upset. Kentucky was able to knock off Ole Miss by a field goal. It was a 20-17 final, and Ole Miss was previously 6th in the AP poll, and they now fall to 12.
And your Maryland Terps weren't able to get the win this week, 28-42. I mean, mind you, Indiana is ranked, so a tough game for them, but still falling to 3-2 on the season.
Yeah, obviously this was a tough game on the road. Indiana's 5-0 for the first time since 1967. So when you always have something like that on the line, teams are just going to rise above and play better. So Maryland gets their second loss of the season.
And now taking a look later into the week, what's one game that you're excited to see in the college football?
This is a tough one. I mean, this week is packed with a lot of good games, but I think potentially an upset might be Arkansas over Tennessee.
Okay, I was looking at upsets as well, and I think Florida State might actually be able to squeak out a win against Clemson. Number 15, Clemson. Florida State has been rough to start the season, but I do think that they can maybe hold it together, and that could be a possible upset coming up.
Another upset could also be Washington at home against number 10 Michigan. Obviously, Michigan took a big loss to Texas a couple weeks ago, so if Washington gets some momentum, they might be able to take down the Wolverines.
And then taking a look, I want to take a look at our MLB playoff picture. We have Detroit against Houston. Who do you think is going to take that one?
Well, this is a very tough one. Obviously, Detroit hasn't been in the playoffs for a while, and Houston obviously is always in it. I mean, they're always a contender, but I like the underdog story here. I think Detroit wins this series.
I can agree as well. And then taking a look for all my Baltimore fans, Baltimore against Kansas City Royals. Who do you have?
I think this is going to be a very good series. I think this is going to go to 3 games, and I think the Orioles are going to barely beat the Royals.
I do want to note the World Series champs from last year just aren't even in the playoffs as well. So, I mean, a tough fall for them. But looking in the NL, we have the Mets versus the Brewers. What's that looking like for you?
I mean, the Mets started the season off very slow, and now they got some momentum, and they got into the playoffs. I think the Mets ride this momentum and get the win.
And then for the final wild card game, the Braves versus San Diego. Who do you have?
The Braves have been moving slow as of late, and San Diego's a solid team, so I think the Padres move on.
And that'll do it for our MLB. Do you want to kind of throw out some news? I mean, MLB star Pete Rose did pass away at 83. He's known for having 4,200 hits on his MLB career.
Yeah, obviously that's a big milestone, but sadly he did pass away on Tuesday, so that was a very sad loss. And also, moving on to the NBA world, Dikembe Mutombo died at 58 due to brain cancer. So another sad loss as the NBA Hall of Famer passed away on Monday.
And he was one of the greatest shot blockers of all time. But that'll round off our show today. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And if you want to keep updated with the show, head over to WKHSradio.org or go to FanCam_talk show on Instagram. But until then, we'll see you guys in the next episode.